Hey, podcast listeners. Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcast? Good news. With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. Stay up to date on everything newsworthy by downloading the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free news. That's amazon.com/ad-free news to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
The mighty and resilient Merrimack River, carving through the communities of our great region. My name is Linda Lorden, proud president of Merrimack County Savings Bank. And like the river that serves as our namesake, we're a constant yet ever-changing presence. Because to us, it's bigger than banking. It's about powering communities and putting people first. It's about knowing where you came from and where you're going. That's Merrimack style. Visit us at themerrimack.com.
You're listening to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, the show that proves no one stumbles upon success ever. With your host, Lou Need. Every Mondays and Thursdays, we deliver cold hard evidence behind the power of a robust morning routine. Get ready to be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lou Need, and today I have the honor of introducing a very special guest to the show, Terry Tucker. You know, he is out of Boston. He graduated from Boston University, and he is a motivational speaker, author, and has his own podcast. But today we're going to talk about the obstacles. How do you overcome these obstacles that come across your path and you thrive? And Terry is a survivor, a cancer warrior, as he likes to put it. And so he's going to tell us and inspire us today. So with no further ado, Terry, welcome to the show.
Lenny, thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to talking with you today.
It's a delight. Now, do you live in Boston or were you just there for school?
Just there for school. I live in Denver, Colorado now.
Okay, it's just as beautiful out there.
It is, absolutely.
just as cold, too. Tell us about your, I always like to hear about the hero's journey, so tell me how you got started, what you were doing prior, and how you became a motivational speaker.
Sure. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I'm the oldest of three boys. You can't tell this from looking at me or from my voice, but I'm 6'8" tall, and I played college basketball at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. When I graduated from college, I moved home to find a job. I'm really going to date myself now, but this was long before the internet was available to help people find employment. Fortunately, I found that first job in the marketing department at the corporate headquarters of Wendy's International, the hamburger chain. Unfortunately, I lived with my parents for the next 3.5 years as I helped my mother care for my father and my grandmother, who were both dying of different forms of cancer. Professionally, as I said, started out in marketing at Wendy's, then moved to hospital administration, and then made a major pivot in my life and became a police officer. And one of the things that I did during my law enforcement career was I was a SWAT team hostage negotiator. When my law enforcement career ended, I started my own school security consulting business and became a girls' high school basketball coach. But for the last almost 11 years now, I've been dealing with a rare form of cancer that has seen me on a drug for 5 years, that gave me the flu for 2 to 3 days every week after I took an injection. I had my foot amputated in 2018. I had my leg amputated in 2020, and I still have tumors in my lungs now, which I'm being treated for. And I guess just to round this out, my wife and I have been married for 30 years. We have one child, a daughter, who's a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy and is an officer in the new branch of the military, the Space Force.
Wow. Talking about, your story is empowering already. Talking about one obstacle after the other, yet you are, as you are today, so jolly and so just embracing everything. And I think that mindset plays a big role in recovery and actually living despite the odds as you are faced with.
Absolutely. Mindset is everything. How we, whether we like to admit it or not, we all talk to ourselves, and I always tell people to be very careful what you say to yourself, because whatever you say gets hardwired into your brain.
You're listening.
I tell people, like, I'll use a basketball example. If you took a basketball, went out onto the court and practiced shooting free throws, there would be a certain part of your brain that would engage, or if we could look at it under an MRI, that would light up. But if you thought about taking that basketball, going out on that court and shooting those shots, that exact same part of your brain is going to engage or light up under a scan. So, if you go into something like, oh, I'm terrible at this, I'm never going to be good at it, you're going to eventually hardwire your brain to the point where you're not going to be able to do the thing that you want to do. And I'll end it with this. When I was growing up, there was a basketball coach at Indiana University by the name of Bobby Knight. And Knight had a quote that went like this: mental is to physical as 4 is to 1. So here's this great coach teaching, elite athletes to be great basketball players on the court. But what he was really saying with that quote is that your mind, or your mindset, is 4 times more important than anything your physical body is going to do.
Because as a man thinketh, so he is, right? So he becomes.
We become what we think. Absolutely.
Yeah, that is quite fascinating. So tell us about, how can you give yourself the incomparable gift?
I guess I'll put it this way. Our brains are hardwired to avoid pain and discomfort and to seek pleasure. So to the brain, the status quo, the way things are right now, it's good, it's comfortable, it's familiar, and it should just be left alone. But the only way we're going to grow, the only way we're going to develop, the only way we're going to get better at anything in our lives is to step outside that comfort zone and do things that make us uncomfortable. I try to do this every day of my life, and I recommend it to everybody I talk with. Do one thing every day that makes you nervous, that scares you, that makes you uncomfortable, that's potentially embarrassing. It doesn't have to be a big thing. I mean, I can't stand going to the dentist, but every now and then I got to pick up that phone and call and make my 6-month appointment. And I'm sure people are like, oh, it's no big deal. But when you don't like the dentist, it is. It's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. It doesn't have to be a big thing. But if you do those small things every day, when the big disasters in life hit us, and they hit all of us, we lose somebody who's close to us, we get let go from our job, we find out we have a chronic or a terminal illness, you'll be so much more resilient to handle those things when they present themselves.
Even without the chronicle, the illness, our default is that pessimistic. Our default is that negative place. How come is that? We're wired to just live this like unexciting life per se, right? We're just like defaulted to not even going to get into habits just yet, but like, why is that our default versus, and we have to work super hard to reverse that, to reprogram the subconscious mind.
I think it's our brain just trying to protect us. We don't do anything, if you got up this morning and said, hey, I'm going to go skydiving, your brain would be like, oh, wait a minute. No, you're not. The parachute may not open and the plane might crash. And you would have all these things going through your mind that would prevent you or try to prevent you from doing that. So I think it's really just, it's just our brain trying to protect us. And you're absolutely right. I remember back in college when, somebody would go out party the night before a test and they would come into the test kind of hungover. And what would they say? Oh, I'm so hungover. I'm not going to do very good on this test. Nobody ever came in and said, hey, I paid attention during all the lectures. I know this stuff. I'm going to do great on this test. Yeah. Nobody ever says that. You're right. Everybody goes to the negative. And I just think it's because it's a self-preservation. It's ingrained into us in our brain, and our brain likes it that way. Like I said, don't do anything outside your comfort zone, and that way you'll be safe.
And safe is not the way to go about. You're shaking your head.
Yeah, you don't grow when you're safe. You just stagnate. You stay where you are. And I love that quote from the Shawshank Redemption movie. I think it was Morgan Freeman who, get busy living or get busy dying. So you don't want to be stagnant. You want to get busy living your life.
Yes. And that's crucial because you tap into one thing with your speeches is that genuine happiness, right? Because it's almost like joy, right? Because happiness can be fleeting, but joy, that innate, genuine, true joy that just resonates, that wakes you up in the morning, where your situation doesn't dictate how you show up or how happy you are, because it's like innate. So tell us about that.
I guess the way I would describe that is this. We all seem to think that we're born empty, that we're born and, we kind of grow up, we go to high school or college or the military, whatever we end up doing. And then we get into life. And when we get into life, it seems like our function, our purpose is to fill ourselves up. We're born empty. Okay, I got to get a good job. I got to get money. I got to get a nice car. I got to have a nice, and we consume. And that's what advertising is all about, convincing us that we need the latest car or, the latest iPhone or the latest laptop or whatever it is. And so we consume. And I think to find that joy, to find that happiness, if we looked at it just the opposite and said, we're not born empty, we're born full. And our job throughout our life is to empty ourselves out for the betterment of ourselves, our family, our community, our world. It's an opposite way of looking at what we all seem to be. Like, I got to have stuff, and stuff will make me happy. Yeah. Stuff doesn't make you happy. You can't take any of that stuff with you when you die. What you can take with you is the love that you have in your heart. So spending more time, working on the things you are. I had a nurse recently ask me what it was like to have my foot amputated and my leg amputated. And I told her, I said, it's certainly not been easy. When you're 6'8", falling is not an option because you kind of get hurt from this height when you do that. But what I told her was, cancer can take all my physical faculties, but cancer can't touch my mind, it can't touch my heart, and it can't touch my soul. And that's who I am. That's who you are. That's who everybody who's listening to us is. But we spend so much time on this vessel, this house. Do I have the right hairstyle? Am I wearing the right clothes? And I'm not telling you not to go to the gym. I'm not telling you not to eat right and do those things. But what I am asking you to do is spend a little bit more time working on your heart, your mind, and your soul, because that's who you are. And I think that's where true happiness or joy comes from.
I like that. Cancer cannot touch my mind, my soul. It cannot touch who I am. That's powerful. That is powerful right there, to have that strength, that determination, that formidability. Like, you are tough and untouchable. That is really something. I'm really, really glad you shared that, because a lot of times people are just, we struggle. We struggle with waking up and feeling that genuine joy and that genuine happiness. When people come to you, what's the first thing that, as a motivational speaker, that you start to work on? Is it just right directly to mindset?
What I usually start with is values. We make New Year's resolutions, we make goals for ourselves and things like that. And, why do 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by, February? I think it's because we don't tie our New Year's resolutions, we don't tie our goals to something concrete, to something that's immovable. And I think that's where values come in. What is so important to you? What is so ingrained in your heart or your soul that it's immovable? It's not going to change no matter what happens to you. Is it character? Is it humility? Is it trust? Is it family? Well, whatever it ends up being, understanding what your values are, I think is where you need to start. And, I always tell young people, especially, if there's something in your heart, something in your soul that you believe you're supposed to do, but it scares you, go ahead and do it. Because at the end of your life, the things you're going to regret are not going to be the things you did. They're going to be the things you didn't do. And by then, it's going to be too late to go back and do them. So follow your heart, but understand your values. Understand what those values are. And if you know what they are, you can anchor your goals to those values. And then you have a much better chance of succeeding because they're anchored to something concrete. They're anchored to something that's not going to change with, I got a better job, or I got a good job, or I got this relationship, or your values aren't going to change. They may grow, they may develop, but they're not going to change. But we don't spend a lot of time, again, going back to working on what are your values. I bet if you asked 9 out of 10 people, they couldn't tell you, oh, my values, I don't know. You know, I want to be a good person or something like that. They've never spent the time to think about that. And I think once you understand your values, then you're willing to do all kinds, you're willing to commit your life to something that you may never be successful at, but it's so ingrained in you based on your values that you're willing to do that. And who knows, maybe somebody down the road will pick up what you did and improve on it. And then that carries it further down the road.
Yeah, well put. Those values are important. And what you mentioned earlier was I wanted to tap into was we're not born, what do you say, empty, right? We're born empty. Full. Yeah. We're born full. There's this notion that we're born empty. And it has to do with upbringings too, religion, that Christianity tells you you're a sinner. You're not, you got to repent and do all this stuff. However, the way you put it is you are full and you have to kind of empty it out to better the kingdom or to better the world around you. So I hear service, like, you empty yourself out to serve others and give back. Is that right?
It is, and I guess I don't want your listeners to think that I don't have bad days. You're looking at me right now. There's no S on my chest. I'm not flying around with magical powers or anything like that. When I have my cancer treatments, I have bad days. I get down. I feel sorry for myself. But when I do that, I find that I'm looking inward. It's all about me. Woe is me. This is terrible and things like that. And I find a way to get out of that sort of funk, so to speak, is to find somebody else to help. Is there somebody else that I can pick up the phone and call? Hey, how you doing? I know enough people that have cancer that I can pick up that phone, or if I'm at treatment, just say hi to somebody, or, hey, do you want to have a cup of coffee or something like that would all of a sudden now my focus is not on me. My focus is on somebody else. And when you do that, your whole paradigm shifts, your whole attitude shifts. And now it's not about you. It's about what you are giving to another person.
Beautiful. It's amazing how that works, right? Take the attention away from ourselves, help people out. And that goes back to the values, right? If you find what your values are, you can tie it to how you can better serve people. And it just feels like you're in alignment. You are in this beautiful music and just kind of flowing through life because you identify the values and then you are emptying yourself out to give to the world. And you could do that in the form of a business. You can you make money from it, become an entrepreneur doing that and providing that service to other people. I really like that notion. Let's talk about some of the habits, that you need to put in place so that we can identify those values better to also discipline us in the morning. So let's talk about your morning routine in particular. How do you get up, dress up, and show up?
I think that's a great point. You hit on 3 words that, we talk a lot about motivation. My blog is called Motivational Check, but I don't think motivation is enough. The way I look at it is motivation is like lighting the fuse. But if you light the fuse and you don't have the good habits and the discipline to implement those good habits, you can have all the motivation in the world and you're never going to get to where you want to be. It's almost like a 3-legged stool. You have to have the motivation, you have to have the discipline, and you have to have the habits. And if any one of those legs on that stool isn't connected or is short or anything like that, you're wobbly, you're out of balance. Your life is not in balance. So I just wanted to pick up on that because I think that's incredibly important. In terms of my morning routine, sleep is very important to me, being a cancer patient, so trying to recover. But I try to get up at the same time every single day, which is usually around 6 or 6:30. And I spend about an hour every morning in prayer. As I mentioned, there are a lot of people that I know that have cancer that have asked me to pray for them. And I'd be lying to you if I told you I don't pray for myself. I certainly do. That, hopefully that I'll get a miracle as well. But prayer seems to center me. Again, I'm not saying, oh God, give me all this stuff. I'm saying, oh God, help these people that need help right now, that are struggling, that, are sick, that are tired, that are worn out, that are beat up. Help them as well. And then after that, I have the same breakfast every morning, and I've been having it forever. And I think, kind of the old saying, garbage in, garbage out, if you put good stuff into your body, fruits and vegetables, I think are incredibly important. Nuts, beans, all those kind of things that come from the earth definitely help me. I mean, when I was diagnosed in 2012, I was told I would be lucky to live another 5 years.
Wow.
It's 11 years into this fight. And I think a lot of that has to do with my morning routine, how I show up, how I think, how I give, or ask our creator to help other people as well. And then also what I put into my body. If I was putting fats and sugars and all that kind of stuff, it wouldn't be good. You don't need to be. One of the diagnostic tools that my doctor used to use was called a PET scan. And that's basically injecting radioactive sugar into you and then scanning you, with the idea being that cancer cells have a higher metabolism. So they'll pick up that sugar at a higher rate and they will glow. They will show up on a scan. And so it doesn't take a genius to figure out, well, maybe I should cut sugar out of my diet and that kind of thing. So, I guess in a nutshell, that's kind of my morning routine. And it's something that I absolutely stick to. I don't care if I'm traveling somewhere or if I'm at home. That's what I do every single morning.
And you're a living testimony of it, because you are 11 years later. Look at the proof.
Exactly.
Look at the proof. And I love what we're feeding, garbage in, garbage out. Garbage out is what we're feeding the mind. For you, it's prayer. It's that time in meditation, listening from God, talking to God, and being able to ground yourself. That's important. That is crucial to kind of get the mindset going. And it needs to be replenished every day, because we like you said, we wake up with this automatic negative thoughts. We have to clean out the gunk every day. We have to get up every morning and do a reset, refresh, so that we can get through the day with more power, with more rigor, and show up better, not just for ourselves, but for our family and also for the people that we work with. So
I totally agree with you. And I think one thing I learned from team sports, playing basketball when I was 9 years old, played all the way up till I was graduated from college. And I think for me, it was team sports. I think it's whatever team you're on, whether it's your family or your colleagues at work or whatever at church, whatever it ends up being for you. But I think one of the things that team sports taught me was the importance of being part of something that's bigger than yourself. You realize on a team that if you don't do your job, not only do you let yourself down, but you let your teammates down, your coaches down, your fans down, et cetera. And if you think about it, the biggest team game that we all play is this game of life. So I really think people want to be part of something that's bigger than them, because it helps them grow, it helps them develop, it helps them mature, it helps them to be a better person. So I would encourage your listeners to look for that. Look for ways where you can be part of something that's bigger than you.
It gives you purpose. Yeah. It feeds into the values and the purpose for your life, and things change from there. You're a different person from there.
Right.
Absolutely. Terry, tell us, where can we connect with you? Where can we find you?
So I have a blog called Motivational Check. Every morning I put up a thought for the day. And with that thought comes usually a question about maybe how you could implement that thought into your life. I have recommendations for books to read, videos to watch. My social media links are there. And you can leave me a message there. So it's motivationalcheck.com.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. It's been such a delight meeting you and having this chat with you. Thank you so much for your presence this morning.
Well, thank you for having me on. I hope that our discussion is going to make a positive difference in the lives of your audience. And if it does, today's been a good day.
It's been a great day. Fantastic.
All right, morning enthusiasts, that's it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you love the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes or Google Play. While you're at it, tell a friend about the show. Be sure to visit bestmorningroutineever.com and our Facebook group to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic free bonus content. Until next time,